Hello everyone and welcome back to this Let's Play series of Star Trek Online. My name is Winters and you are very welcome. So, for this episode we are going to move on to yet another system in Star Trek Online, which is known as the Fleet System. I suppose the first question is, what are fleets in Star Trek Online? Well, some players may know them better as guilds. Basically, it is a group or collection of players that have banded together to form a fleet and play together for the purpose of earning resources and playing endgame content, and to develop that fleet in order to purchase high-end fleet gear, endgame fleet gear. So I have sent myself a fleet invite to one of my fleets called the House of Grilka, so we'll accept that. To access the fleet window, you simply click on this button in the bottom right hand corner of the minimap. When you mouse over it, it is marked as your fleet, and up pops the fleet window. So what we are looking at here is one of the holdings, which is the fleet starbase. Every holding has a number of facilities. That's what these are here, the red, yellow and greeny blue. And you, along with the other members of that fleet, have to help develop those facilities and level them up. And as you do, the fleet unlocks high-end fleet quality endgame gear. So if we click on the Holdings tab here, we can see a full list of all of the available holdings. And starting off down here at the bottom, we can see Starbase, then we have Spire, Research Lab, K-13, Embassy, Dilithium Mine, and Colony World. So, the way it works is each holding runs a number of projects. There are a set amount of project slots, and if you click on any of those projects, you will see a list of required resources that are needed in order to put that particular project on cooldown. When that project goes on cooldown, depending on the level of your fleet or the progression that it's made, it can go on a cooldown from anywhere between 20 hours to 15 hours. It just depends on how far along your fleet is developed. Once that project is complete, it will then disappear and a new project should slot in its place, assuming that the fleet leadership has done what it's supposed to do, that it's running the fleet properly. There are a wide variety of fleet projects, and anyone that's interested in learning more about fleet management, you want to check out my fleet management tutorial, really, which is in another one of my series on my channel. But anyway, we can see here that there is an area marked rewards, and if we mouse over it, it says 1000 Starbase military experience points. Now if we go back and we look at the different facilities, we can see we have a military facility, we have an engineering facility and a science facility. Now remember, this experience here was military experience. So when that project goes on cooldown and completes that cooldown, basically what it will do is it will add 1000 military experience onto the end here and progress the bar up just a little bit, and there will be 1000 XP added on here to this number. And that's basically how fleets work. Projects are put up, the resources are filled by its members, and the projects get filled 100%. The projects go on cooldown. X amount of time later, the projects finish their cooldown, and they pay out some kind of reward usually to the fleet. Now you might ask, why would I want to put any of my resources into a fleet? Well, the reason why you want to do that is, number one, you want to level up the different facilities and holdings that are in your fleet so that you can have access to high-end fleet gear. The other reason is, and I'm just going to try and find some projects here that will go on. Oh, right, this one, perfect. The other reason is, anytime you contribute resources to any fleet project, you get what is known as fleet credits back in return. Depending on the type of resource that you contribute, it will vary on the amount of fleet credits that you get back. So we'll take, for example, this particular project here. We can see that everything is filled except fleet marks, okay? And we can see that the contribute button is highlighted. So we click on contribute, and we can see here the slider's already maxed out. We are going to get 14,400 fleet credits for donating 288 marks. Okay, so anytime you contribute something to a fleet project, you get fleet credits back, so it's not costing you anything. The other thing that I should point out as well is that fleet marks can only be used for fleet projects. There is nothing else in the game that fleet marks can be used for. They can only be used for fleet projects. So we'll click OK on this, and you will see the project will complete or go on cooldown, and you can see now it's on an 18-hour cooldown. So in 18 hours time, that project is going to complete. It's going to reward 1200 K13 Xenotech experience points, and it will move the bar here from there to roughly about there. That's just a bit of a guess, really, but that's probably how much it will move. And a new project will come in its place once it finishes that 18-hour cooldown. We have another project here as well, and we can put in more fleet marks, and basically the same thing happens there with those as well. We have even more here, so we'll put these on cooldown. This is actually working out quite nicely for me. And we'll put a chunk in here, and we'll go back and we'll put, oh wait, I want to check. Yep, they're all done. Okay, so I can go back to this one and put the rest in there now. Okay. Right, so that's basically how fleets work. It's a collection of players that have banded together to form a fleet, and each player contributes resources, not only fleet marks, but you know, duty officers, experience, energy credits, dilithium, and they complete projects, and the different facilities level up, and as they level up and reach new tier levels, they unlock new pieces of gear. So for example, if I click on tier 1 diplomacy here for the embassy, okay, we can see we get equipment, ultra rare, threat scaling science consoles Mark 10. We also get operational assets, fleet bird of prey reinforcements, and ground consumables, small psionic pacifier. If we click on tier 2, we can see that we get ultra rare threat scaling science consoles Mark 11. We get operational asset fleet Dideridex reinforcements. We get operational assets fleet Mogai reinforcements, and blah 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 blah. Basically, this is all stuff that we can purchase from the fleet if we want it. And each individual holding has a different variety of gear. So if I click on tier 3 research here on the Spire holding, we can see we get ultra rare elite obelisk swarmers. Alright, so they become available, those hangar pets. Vulnerability locator Mark 12 tactical consoles, and Elite Plasma Integrated Warp Cores, and Elite Thoron Infused Singularity Cores. So that's what Tier 3 unlocks, meaning that once research has reached Tier 3, completed its cooldown, these items will then be available for purchase from the fleet's spire. And I should point out that every single one of these different holdings you can actually visit in-game. You can go to each and every single one of these various or different locations in-game. And at each location there is one or more vendors there that you can purchase a variety of different things from them. In order to make those purchases, you need 3 things. So one is you need fleet credits. Anything purchased, anything purchased from the fleet will require fleet credits. And we've already talked about you get fleet credits by making contributions to fleet projects. The second thing you will need is dilithium. Most purchases from the fleet will require a small amount of dilithium in order to make that purchase. The second thing, or third thing, sorry, that you will need is what is known as provisions. Now, these are not actually something that you are in possession of. You know, it's not a tangible possession that you actually have. It is alright, I'll explain it this way. So we look at this project, okay, and the rewards for this particular project are 1200 dilithium mine development experience points. If I look at this project, we can see the rewards are 200 dilithium mine development experience points. But also, on top of that, we have 8 dilithium mine development personal requisition provisions. Okay? So when we complete or finish filling this project, it goes on cooldown, it completes that cooldown, the facility, which is the red one here, will gain that 200 experience, and then the fleet will get these 8 dilithium mine development provisions, and they go into a pool of available provisions. And as you can see, there's a provisions tab up at the top here, and we can see for the dilithium mine there are 2 different types of provisions. There are trade provisions and development provisions, and if we remember, these ones were development provisions. So these 8 will be added on to the 24 that is already here, which will give us a grand total of 32. So remember I said that the third thing you will need in order to make a purchase from the fleet is provisions. Depending on the holding and the item that you are looking to purchase, you will require 1 or more provisions that are taken from the fleet pool of provisions. Okay, so the dilithium mine has 2 sets of provisions, or 1 set of provisions. The embassy has 4 different types of provisions. K13 has 2 types of provisions. The research lab has 2 types of provisions. The spire has 2 types of provisions, and the starbase has 9 types of provisions. And like I said, depending on the item that you are going to purchase, you will be using 1 or more of the provisions that the fleet has in order to make your purchase. A common mistake that many players make is when they go to a fleet vendor and they try to make a purchase, they usually see in the top left hand corner of the window that will be in front of them, you know, like when they're interacting with the vendor. So we'll say if this is the actual vendor here, okay, there'll be a list of stuff here. Up in the top left hand corner it will say let's say, for example, 32 items. indicating that you can purchase 32 items, and they think that those provisions are theirs. They're actually not. They're the fleet's, and you as a member of that fleet are granted rights to use those provisions depending on how the fleet is set up. Most fleets require you to make X amount of fleet credits in your home fleet, and once you have reached that goal, you are then promoted and given access to all fleet stores. Excuse me. Right, so it's important to realize that the provisions on the dilithium mine are completely different to the provisions on the Spire. Each holding has its own types of provisions, and items purchased from that location will use provisions from its stores. Okay, so if this is at 0, for example, we will not be able to purchase. Alright, research is research. Okay, here. Strategic Secondary Deflector Mark 12. Let's say if we wanted to purchase one of those, but there are 0 research provisions, then we can't purchase one until the provisions are stockpiled up again. You just will not be able to make a purchase from the fleet until the fleet stores are restocked with fresh provisions. And those provisions are obtained by running provision projects. That's what this particular project is known as. It's a provision project. It rewards provisions for the fleet. This will be known as an XP project, which only gives XP to the fleet in order to level up its facility. And as members contribute to these projects, they get fleet credits back, which they can use later on down the road to make purchases from the fleet to better equip their character and finalize their build. I suppose I should point out that your average build, you are looking at least 1 million fleet credits. That's how much you are going to need, at least, by the time you are finished with your build. That's how many fleet credits you are going to need. It can go as high as 3 million, but your average build, you are easily looking at 1 million fleet credits. Why 1 million fleet credits? Well, let's say, for example, one of the very few things in game that you can say these are the best whatever. There's very few things in Star Trek Online that you can say this is the best. Like a common question that players have is what's the best ship in game? There is no such thing as the best ship in game. The best ship is the one that suits you best, your playstyle, and the build that you want to achieve. That is the best ship for you. There is no best ship. It depends on a number of different factors. But in terms of tactical consoles, without a doubt, hands down, the fleet tactical consoles are the best ones in the game. You simply want to get your tactical consoles from the fleet. You're absolutely barking if you do not, because they are absolutely amazing. Another bonus with purchasing fleet gear is that all fleet gear is ultra rare quality, meaning that there is only one quality upgrade needed before it goes to epic level. Because of this, fleet gear is among the cheapest gear to purchase and to upgrade in game. It is, let's say, compared to reputation gear, all reputation gear is twice as expensive to purchase. Compared, alright, well no, that's technically a lie, but all reputation gear is dearer to purchase compared to fleet gear, and it is twice as expensive to upgrade compared to fleet gear. And reputation gear comes at very rare quality, meaning it's very rare, then it goes to ultra rare, then it goes to epic, and getting quality upgrades is an absolute nightmare. So fleet gear is a very, very wise investment to make, and often cheaper compared to reputation gear. Having said that, most builds will have a variety of reputation gear and fleet gear. It's very rare that you will be going one way or the other completely. It is usually a mix of both. Some reputation gear and the remainder being fleet gear. You might have some story mission rewards in there as well, or whatnot, you know. Right, next we are going to click on the roster tab. Now when you look at the roster tab, you can see a list of all available players that are currently online in your fleet. If you click down here in the bottom left hand corner, you can see a full list of members that are in the fleet but not necessarily online. As you can see here, all these ones are currently offline at the moment, but if you want to have a look at everybody that is in the fleet, you can do that. Now, like I said earlier, most fleets have some sort of a requirement in order to get promoted, and then once you receive that promotion, you are granted access to the fleet stores. How you can check how much fleet credits you have earned in your current fleet is by going to the roster tab, clicking here where it says member comments, and then selecting overall holding contribution. Now, if we look for my character, which is right here, we can see I have earned, wow, I can't even believe that, a couple of minutes, and I've earned 358,250 fleet credits. That's how many fleet credits I have earned in this fleet. Any fleet credits earned in previous fleets do not show up here, okay, and this is the only number that matters. It should be noted that this number only ever goes up, it never goes down. Every time you contribute something to a fleet project and you get fleet credits back, this number goes up and it keeps on going up, it never goes down. If we open up the inventory window and we click on assets, we can see here I currently have 0 fleet marks, but we can see my fleet credits are here, and again it matches the number here, 356,250 fleet credits. Now, the difference you have to realize between this number and this number is this shows the current total you have. So let's say I go to a fleet vendor and I spend 100,000 fleet credits. Well, then this number will go down to 256,250 fleet credits, whereas this number will stay at 356,250. So it's very important to realize the difference between those two numbers. I see a lot of players and they come into one of the fleets and you know, like they contribute, let's say 20,000 fleet credits worth of stuff, and they look here and it's over 100,000. They go, oh, I've earned 100,000. You might have earned 100,000, but you haven't earned 100,000 in your, you know, the current fleet that you're in. And unfortunately, the game doesn't calculate credits earned in previous fleets. You can only see fleet credits earned in your current fleet. So very important to keep that in mind. Right. Next, I'm going to click on the Armada tab. Now, the Armada tab, I suppose the best way to describe what an Armada is, just the same way as a fleet is a collection or group of players that have banded together under the one roof, you know, within a fleet. An Armada is a collection of fleets that have banded together, and they can work towards a common goal. All armadas look basically the same. So this is the top tier fleet. It is known as the Alpha Fleet because it's in the top position. Below the Alpha Fleet you have 3 Beta Fleets, and each of those Beta Fleets has 3 Gamma Fleets underneath them. Okay, as you can see by the graph here, that's what that's representing. Now, depending on the fleet's position within the armada, they benefit from a number of different bonuses. So for example, the Alpha Fleet gets a 20% bonus to experience points. Okay, so there's 20% extra experience points being earned by every member in the Alpha Fleet. The fleet also benefits from a 5% dilithium discount. Any of the Beta Fleets get a 10% bonus to experience points and a 10% dilithium discount. Alright, all Beta Fleets benefit from that. Then all of the Gamma Fleets, every single one of them, all 9 of them, get a 5% bonus to experience points and a 20% dilithium discount. Okay, so as I said, depending on the fleet's position within the armada, it will get certain bonuses. 20% bonus is the highest possible maximum within an armada. How that is calculated is by a combined grand total of all of the fleet levels. So if I go to the overview page here, we can see that the House of Grilka is currently at fleet level 34. Okay, this is actually a brand new fleet that we just brought online very recently, and that's why it is not leveled up yet, because it's only a brand new fleet. We just started it off, as I said, very recently, and when we started it was at fleet level 0, and it's now at fleet level 34. If we go back to the Armada tab, we can see here Armada level 783. So if I start at the top here and look here, we can see the different fleet levels. So the Alpha Fleet is level 81, one of the Beta Fleets is 43, one of the Gamma Fleets is 47, next one is 24, next one is 85, next one is 81, and so on. This number is a total of all of the fleets in the Armada, and the higher this number, the greater the bonuses here. Basically, every 35 points, this will increase by 1%. So that means at Armada level 700, you have reached the cap. You can obviously still go beyond that, but level 700 is the cap for bonuses that you can get within the Armada. Right, so that's Armadas. I've talked to you about checking your overall holding contributions. We've talked about fleet projects, earning fleet credits, how the different holdings progress. Right, I suppose the next thing I can talk about is what gear you can get. So from the fleet starbase, depending on the level of the military facility, you can purchase a number of fleet ships. Now you might ask, what is a fleet ship? Well, a fleet ship is... Let's see, I need to word this right. A fleet ship has 10% more hull, 10% more shields, and 1 extra console slot compared to the C-Store variant of that ship. However, the C-Store variant of that ship will have a starship trait, but you may or may not want that, so that's kind of up in the air. It will also have a unique console, a universal console with it as well. Plus, any C-Store ships that you purchase will be redeemable on all future characters that are part of the same faction, whereas fleet ships are bound to character and they're a one-time deal. You have to buy each fleet ship individually for that character. What else can you get from the Starbase? The Starbase, you can get fleet, ground and space weapons. You can get ground armor. You can get space engines, as in impulse engines. You can also get deflectors and shields, both space and ground, as well as elite hangar pets. There's a number of other things you can get, like buffs and operational assets, but to be perfectly honest with you, buffs and operational assets are crap. Nobody uses them. They're not worth a shite. The Spire, you can get kits, kit modules, you can get tactical consoles, you can get warp cores and singularity cores. You can also get some trait unlocks or active duty officer slots from the Spire. The most important thing from the Spire is the fleet tactical consoles, guaranteed, hands down. The research lab, you have secondary deflectors. You also have some duty officers. I'm trying to think what else. Let's have a look-see here. Secondary deflectors. Oh yes, you get some kit modules. You also get some additional trait unlocks, which, to be perfectly honest with you, are quite pricey, but they are very, very much worth it. You get some science consoles, you also get some kit frames, and you also get some bridge officers as well that can be purchased from there. K-13 has ground and space weapons, 23rd or 22nd century 23rd century flavor, so basically TOS style weapons. You have duty officers, you have bridge officers, you have training manuals, you have engineering consoles, you have... what else? Kit modules. I don't think I said that already. Embassy, you have science consoles, you have kit modules, you have kit frames, you have duty officer assignment slots, you have really good bridge officers as well. The dilithium mine, you have engineering consoles and warp cores and singularity cores. And the colony world, you have, wow, there's so much stuff from the colony world. You have space and ground weapons, you have ground armor, you have warp cores and deflectors and shields, space and ground, you have tactical consoles, you have bridge officers. There's so much stuff at the colony world. So yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown on the fleets, really. We will be coming back to this later on in the series as we make additional or when we want to make purchases from the fleet to start, you know, getting our end game build. So we will be coming back to this later on in the series. But I think that's not too bad for now. So yeah, I guess I'll just say thanks a million for watching, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. And as always, please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. My name is Winters, and I'll see you next time. So until then, take care.